Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about a message I received that I have to admit, at first I kind of blew off. Didn't put too much stock in the message, but eventually got around to checking it out. And that message will lead us to talk about North Dakota and China and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the message comes in, and it says, "Hey, my neighbor has been telling me for weeks that the Chinese are putting in a spy base here in North Dakota." Sure they are. He said that he blew it off initially, but his neighbor told him that it was on MSNBC. He said he went and looked. Couldn't find anything on MSNBC, but thought he'd ask me just in case. I looked. I couldn't find anything on MSNBC either. However, over on CNBC, I did find something. So this is probably a story that's going to eventually be national news. A Chinese food manufacturing company purchased 300 acres of land, was trying to purchase 300 acres of land in North Dakota to put in a milling facility for corn, right? Nothing untoward about that. However, it is really close to an Air Force base there, okay? And a major at the Air Force base basically informed OSI, the Air Force's security group, about some concerns as far as maybe, because this is a Chinese company and because it's so close to the Air Force base, that Chinese intelligence might put passive surveillance devices there, so they can pick up information about drones and communications and stuff like that. Okay. And then come to find out that this has already hit the Senate Intelligence Oversight. And they have expressed their concerns. So, is it real or is it xenophobia? Yeah. The type of surveillance that they're concerned about, could it be done from this facility? Yes, absolutely. That kind of surveillance, when you're talking about electronic surveillance and signals intelligence, it's pretty easy to hide. So easy to hide that you probably don't need a 300-acre facility to do it. What I was able to find about what they're concerned about, you could put that equipment in a residential house, like not even a big one. So that concern is there, and it has actually led to a lot of turmoil in the community around this facility, because it's in North Dakota, and this is something that's going to bring a couple hundred jobs. Given the fact that it has reached Senate oversight, there might be something to it. Maybe there's information that isn't public. At the same time, right now, it's that near peer contest. So there's probably a lot of paranoia, and it may also have something to do with maybe something else entirely. But this is a good reason to torpedo this project. You've entered the world where the intelligence community and the corporate community have met, and now they're operating in another country. Okay, that's what you're theoretically talking about. You will never get to the bottom of that. Could it be? Sure, but that does seem like a massive footprint for something that doesn't really need to be that big. This isn't the 1980s. There's There's far easier ways to gather that kind of information that doesn't require 300 acres and is something that is just so overly obvious. So I would be surprised if that was the intention when the deal started. Now, maybe at some point later, Chinese intelligence was like, hey, wait, you're getting land where? 15 minutes away from this? Maybe we should talk. And maybe U.S. intelligence picked up on something like that, and it coincided with this major at the base putting out this information. Or maybe the major at the base was just saying, hey, this is a concern of mine, tells OSI, like they tell them to, and the memo got out of hand. There's no real way to know the answer to this. But your neighbor is not hasn't lost the plot. This is actually something that's being discussed. It has made it from North Dakota to D.C., and it was, in fact, mentioned on CNBC. I have a lot of questions about the concerns. This is one of those things, because it's such a big project, it would just attract so many eyes. If this same thing had been said about, I don't know, a restaurant, I would probably give it a little bit more credibility, because it just, you're talking about a facility that's going to have hundreds of people. It's really hard to keep a secret like that. But it's interesting, and we will probably hear more about this and more about similar situations in which U.S. intelligence or counterintelligence is working to mitigate a perceived intelligence threat from China. This is something you should probably get used to, because this is going to occur over the next 10, 15, 20 years. It's going to become more and more pronounced, especially if Russia does get bogged down in Ukraine the way it appears they will. So, anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.